We ready?
Yes.
I'm like, depression over. All you needed was someone else to set up your yoga mat.
I just went into the closet. I was like, bye.
I can't wait for the day where I can hold you again in my arms. Like,
it rained today. The guy, like the husband, put two and two together. He's like, Dahlia, that's my mom's name. And you're like,
Cassie might forgive you, but Ammiel and Melissa at Click and Flick do not.
Do not. Sorry.
Hi.
Hi. Welcome to another episode.
I'm Ammiel.
And I'm Melissa.
And we're just so happy to be here, you guys. We're just so excited to be hosting this podcast and to have people listening to us talk.
And ramble a lot. We appreciate it.
We love talking.
We do, and specifically about video games and movies.
Yes, so. And we especially love giving our opinions about video games and movies that no one asked for.
Completely uneducated.
And unfiltered.
And unfiltered.
And unprotected.
Ooh,
oh, wait, is that inappropriate?
I like it. Keep it. And our systems are usually based from 0 to 10. So.
And it just goes off our hearts.
It does. Our souls.
0 means nah.
Yeah, like don't.
And 10 means yeah.
And then yes.
And yes,
and,
do.
We have some exciting news.
We are very excited about it.
Yes.
We are going to be expanding our
platform.
Yes.
We're going to be doing it on YouTube with video.
Yes. We're going to make our podcast available to the eyes so that you can see ourselves.
So you can feast upon the video.
For your visual consumption. We will be putting out our podcast. We will be starting to put our podcast out on YouTube.
Yes.
Next episode. So this will be the last episode where you're listening to us. And next time you'll be able to listen to us and see us.
Unfiltered. Raw dogging it.
Like I always do.
Right. Ain't no other way.
We're also changing the day that our podcast comes out. So I know that normally people like to listen to us on their way to church on Sundays. But we're
expanding our horizons with that date.
Yeah, you know? we're expanding our day to Tuesdays. We think that has more opportunity.
2 Tuesdays. And it'll be, you know, you get past the Monday lull and then you get into Tuesday and you're just dead. That's where we come in.
Yeah, to give you that little boost of energy to help you get through the rest of the week, you know.
Absolutely.
So next week's episode will be out on Tuesday. So that means next week Tuesday is the 21st.
Yeah.
Because this episode is coming out
2 weeks from now.
The 12th. So not this Tuesday, which is the 14th, but next Tuesday. So next week's episode.
That's right.
Will be.
That's right.
Tuesday, September 21st on YouTube and everywhere else you've already been listening to.
100%.
Are you guys excited?
Nailed it. I am. Oh, my hip popped. All right.
So now that that's all out of the way.
That was beautiful, Ammiel. Good job.
Let's get into the click for tonight.
The click. So tonight's click, it's fantastic. This game I saw recommended via TikTok because TikTok has taken over my life.
Same. So many games
Right?
I see from TikTok.
So many good recommendations, so many indie games that are just too good to miss. So this game is called, this click is 12 Minutes. This game came out on August 19th, 2021. It's an adventure game, single player, obviously. It came out on Xbox and Windows. So sorry, PS4 players, PS5 players.
I'm out of this one. I had to watch videos.
Yep. And no Switch, too, which it would have been fun on the Switch. But anyway.
It's probably pretty capable to be on the Switch.
Yeah. I would play it on the Switch first and foremost rather than playing it on the computer. I'm just saying.
Same.
But anyway, this game caught my attention because it's a loop kind of game. It's kind of like Majora's Mask, where you are in a constant loop until you break it, you win the game. So
like a Groundhog's Day.
Exactly. And the game starts off with a clock. And there's a clock on the wall in the second. The minute and second hands are going backwards. Not fast, but slow enough to where you realize that it's going backwards behind the 12. And that'll be important later. And once it reaches the 12, it stops, and then you start the game. And the game presents you with a male, in an elevator. And he gets out, and you see this like 70s like carpet in its apartment complex. And you head forward. There's 3 doors in front of him, all of which are locked, obviously. And the point of this game is point and click. You get to, kind of, it's like an escape room. You have to just look and touch everything.
Yeah.
And you find the key in a fake plant under a fake rock in front of your apartment door. And you get into your apartment. And this is where the loop starts every single time. So you enter the apartment, and this view is top down. So you see the living room of the apartment. Hence, it's a very tiny apartment. So there's also a tiny dining room or dining room table, and then a couch. The kitchen on the right-hand side of the screen with a fridge. And you have a closet to your left, and then a bedroom door on the left, and the bathroom door is straight ahead. And so you go in, and you're kind of like, okay, I'm ready. I'm going to click on everything. That was my goal. But when you go in, the lights are off. So I freaked out, and I ran into the closet and hid. I didn't touch anything.
Your first try?
I just went into the closet. I was like, bye.
You're like, I'm home. Go to the closet.
Hi, honey, bye. But that gave me a lot of insight. Just doing that initial run of going into the closet. I hid, and I immediately... Go ahead.
I was going to say, so how does the loop go the first time if you go in the closet right away?
So if you go in the closet, it starts off hard. I 10 out of 10 recommend going in the closet first.
Follow-up question, because before you played it, did you kind of know what was going to happen, or were you totally blind going in?
Completely blind. All I knew was that it was a loop and that you had to break the loop. That was it. I didn't know how long the game was. I knew you had a wife because she's kind of in the trailer.
Yeah,
but that was
I saw her in the trailer too.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I went into the closet, and I immediately see that you can look at a purse. And I was like, sweet, awesome. Look in the purse. There's a phone. I grabbed the phone, and my instinct was to call 911. I just called 911 immediately.
Oh my God.
And it's crazy because as you play the game, you get different options when the operator asks you what's going on. What's your emergency? So in the beginning of the game, it's like, my wife's a murderer. I'm stuck in a loop. and this, that, and this. So I was like, okay, I tried all the options, throughout the game, and they're all dumb. But I basically start with like, there's someone coming to kill us. And they're like, okay, get somewhere safe. The police will be there in 15 minutes. And that's what they tell you every single loop. They'll be there in 15 minutes. And you're like, I just got to make it. I got to survive for 15 minutes. Yeah, that's.
But it only lasts 12 minutes, right?
Exactly. Oh, it was so lame. But it was devastating from the get-go. But anyway, after I call the police, I was so scared, and I hear the character's wife come through the bathroom, and she's just like humming to herself and like walking around, sitting down. You look through the blinds, and it speeds up time for you. So you don't have to sit through the loop unnecessarily. And once it speeds up time, it goes to 12:10. And then there's a doorbell. Somebody rings the doorbell. The wife answers the door, and he goes, "It's the police." And you're like startled, like, "Oh, sure you are. Okay." And he's like, "Get on the ground now. You're under arrest for killing your father." And you're like, "What?" And the wife's reacting like, "Wait, what did I do?"
Yeah.
And
she's like,
zip
I'm
ties
innocent.
her hands.
I'm innocent. You've got the wrong person. Yeah.
That's right. And so he throws her on the ground, and he's like, "Listen, I know you killed your father. Where's their pocket watch?" And you're like, I want to see what's like at this point. I'm like, all right, what's he gonna do? And she's like, she didn't really give up any information, but eventually, after some coaxing, she's like, "Oh, it's under that medicine cabinet in the ventilation, the vent underneath there." So he goes, and this is on the first loop, right? He goes, gets the pocket watch from the vent. I hear him do it. And then he's like, okay, well, I've got this pocket watch. I'm going to leave now. He goes, hesitates, and then he looks in the closet, and then I'm dead meat. And then he pulls me out, and he kills me, and then the loop restarts. Oh my gosh. So
you almost
the jump was intense. Yeah, it was an intense first loop, okay?
You're like, what the hell?
Yeah, honestly.
You had no idea the game. Suddenly you're like,
yeah. So now I have severe anxiety about the cop just showing up. I feel like there's so much to do in such little time. Yeah, it's crazy. So now that you kind of get the information, okay, she killed her father. At least that's what the cop is trying to convince her or arrest her for. So then you get a few options to talk to the wife. When I restarted the loop, I let her talk to me. She kisses me and says, "Oh, I have dinner ready. Let me know when you're ready." And she sits down on the couch. And I'm kind of, at this point she sits down. I'm like, okay, my time to explore. I found a knife on the kitchen counter. I found medicine. I found like pills in the medicine cabinet. I couldn't get the vent open right away though for the pocket watch.
Okay.
So I held off on that. I go into the bedroom, and the light in the bedroom, when you flick it on, it zaps you. And I was like, okay, that's creepy, but it's important later. And I go to the dresser, and I find a present. And I open it, and I'm sad I did it in this order because it would have been more climactic if I opened it later. But I opened it, and it's a onesie. What? And it was a onesie, and it says Dahlia on it. And
you
I'm like,
did it in the wrong order.
So wrong. But it gets better. Trust me, it gets better. So I open it, and I'm like, okay, like she's pregnant. Okay, maybe this is why she wanted dinner. So I go over to her, and I'm like, I'm ready for dinner. And I think I somehow brought up that I knew about the present, or I showed her the present, and she got pissed. She got so pissed and like went into the bedroom. She turned the light off after she had gone to bed. And then I go back in the room, I turn the light on, and I get zapped and I die. And I was like, okay, cool, awesome.
Oh,
So
that bitch.
I know, right? That's what I said.
She
shouldn't
knew
turn the
you
light
already
out.
turned the light on.
So the third loop, I ended up drugging her. Yeah,
Oh my
because
God.
I got sleeping pills. There's sleeping pills in the medicine cabinet. And she goes to set up dinner. I grab her cup full of water. I pour the pills in her water and give her her cup. And by the way, if you pour the pills, I know. Because I think
Just
the first
getting
time
into
I
character.
did it, right. I think the first time I did it, I drank the water and I took the sleeping pills and I just ended up dying because the cop killed me. But yeah, so I give her the pills and she goes into the room to knock out. She's like, "Oh, I'm feeling tired." And then the cop shows up. And I'm, of course, hiding in the closet because I'm terrified. But he goes into the bedroom, turns the light on, and he gets zapped and gets shocked and falls over. And I just hear this big thump from the closet, and I'm like, sweet, it's my time. I go over to the cop, and I check his pockets. Right? I had the knife. I had the freaking knife in my hand, right? So I do try to stab him, and you do have an inventory throughout the game when you pick stuff up. I should have mentioned that earlier, but I tried taking the knife. I tried dragging it down to stab him, and for some reason it wouldn't let me.
Yeah, but those are like typical in like Escape the Room, like click and point games, where you have like your inventory that like you take something and then you have to like,
you pick stuff up. You pick up keys to use them.
That's pretty typical gameplay.
Right?
Yeah.
He has a phone on him. He has a gun. He has 2 zip ties and all of these things, right? Mind you. Excuse me. I tried zip tying him. I tried zip tying his hands. I didn't use the gun because I figured that would end a loop if I killed him, you know? So I tried zip tying him and nothing really worked. So I had to continue to re-loop to get him to talk to me. And a few of those loop times, I did find out that when you answer his phone or when you look at his phone, he's got messages from somebody named Bumblebee.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And when you call that number on his phone, it calls his daughter. And looking through the messages, you see that she has cancer and he can't afford the treatment.
Oh my God.
The pocket watch is super valuable and he wants it because he wants to pay for her treatment. Only in America. Right? Despicable America. And so once you've called Bumblebee on that phone, you have her number saved for the next loops. So when you go to grab your wife's phone from her purse, you can call Bumblebee.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
And as you progressively try to figure out and isolate the cop and get more information from him, that he won't listen to anybody but his little daughter. So you have to call her eventually in the beginning of a loop to get him to cooperate with you.
Yeah. To get him to listen to you, she has to say. So basically, as you play each loop, the information that you get, you have to like find certain information in each loop to go back and restart a loop.
Right.
With that information.
Exactly.
At the beginning. So it's not like you can just know what to do and get through in a couple loops because you have to go through and play it to get this to go back to the beginning.
Yep. And that's how I knew that there was a pocket watch under the medicine cabinet because I would have never known unless I didn't watch the cop go get it. And so, I mean, eventually I learned that you had to use a knife and a spoon to, well, I think you could just use one or the other, but you had to use a knife to get to the vent to open it.
So did you ever play through a loop where you find out about the pregnancy like the right way?
Yes. I believe because she goes to get the present. So that loop, when that starts, you give her the opportunity to set up the table. Then she goes, gets the present, sits down, and so on and so forth. That's when you can get the cop to turn on the light and he gets zapped and falls over. If you drug her. Yeah.
Oh, got it. Okay. So that's part of that loop.
Yeah. And
great.
In another loop, once you kind of get a little bit more information that the cop is trying to kill them or hurt them because he thinks that she killed her father 20 years ago. Or however long ago. It was like 10 or 7 years ago. I forget.
The cop thinks that she killed her own father.
Correct.
Now, what does the cop have to do with her father?
So once you get him isolated in where he gets shocked and falls down, you can interrogate him a little bit about his daughter and then why he wants a pocket watch so bad and why he wants to kill her for killing her father. And he says, well, I was good friends with him. I was really good friends with him. And I know she killed him. And that's pretty much where it sits.
That's
as far as that information goes.
Weird to me.
I know.
Like
it only gets worse too.
Like I've never known somebody who is like, I was so close with my friend that was murdered by their daughter that I'm gonna revenge kill the daughter. It's usually the other way around. The daughter goes to revenge kill the so-called friend who ended up killing the dad is usually how it goes. So they like totally switched it up on us here.
It's wild. Oh, and also I have to mention that the cop's voice is Willem Dafoe.
Oh, yeah.
I gotta mention that, right?
A star-studded cast here, folks.
Absolutely. Yeah, once you kind of get the information that the cop knows her father very well, then you start to interrogate your wife. You're like, there's so many different options you can talk to her about it in certain ways. So you're like, why'd you kill your father? And she gets all pissed, like, I didn't kill him. And you do eventually get down to the nitty gritty of it that she killed him in defense because he got belligerent, hit her, and she said, I'm not standing for that. I'm going to kill you, and kills him and then leaves. And that's literally what she says to her husband as far as evidence goes about that.
Huh.
Yeah, this game is super confusing. And when you find that out, you're like, okay.
So what did her dad hit him for? Hit her for?
I forgot it. It was she said her dad was never a violent man, but he was drinking. I think it was something along that line. Because it was New Year's, he died New Year's Eve. Or he was murdered that day. And she said he was drinking. I'm pretty sure that's what it was.
So
I forget that
saying
part.
That he got drunk and violent or something.
Yeah.
So I guess I have too many questions for this.
Oh, you're fine. It's a confusing game.
Okay. I don't want to spoil it if it's going to be something you're getting to, so I'm just going to ask it and then you can be like, hold on.
Go for it. Go for it.
Did she actually kill her father? Was she actually the one who killed her father?
Yeah, we'll get to it.
Okay.
So you go off of that information.
But okay, wait, but does she believe she killed her father?
That's what was confusing to me. Because yes, she was genuinely convinced that she killed her father. Okay. And because it just gets weird. It's just a brain fuck, honestly.
Okay.
So she does believe she killed her father. In turn, her husband believes that she killed him out of defense.
Okay.
So, after doing more digging, after loops and loops and loops, because this game is not very easy, you do realize that there's a photo on the fridge of her at a New Year's Eve party. And you're like, you kind of put two and two together. You're like, no, you were at this party New Year's Eve. You couldn't have killed your father. There's no way. You're innocent. Like, there's no way.
Oh, like she wasn't at the scene of the crime.
Exactly. So you do try to reason with the cop and tell him, like, no, she's innocent. Like, you got to hear us out. And the only way he won't, like, attack you both is if you call Bumblebee and tell her, hey, you need to tell your dad that my wife is innocent. And she goes, what? Why are you talking? Lose my number. And he's like, no, seriously, like, do it. Like, tell your dad. And she's like, okay, whatever. Bye. And then before you hear the doorbell ring,
leave me alone. I'm sick.
Right? Like, she's literally going to the movies in these loops. She's like, Dad, like, I'm going to the movies when you call her on his phone, on the cop's phone. But before you hear the doorbell ring, you do hear him outside the apartment answer a phone call to Bumblebee. And on the other line, she's convincing him, like, hey, listen to them. And he goes, are you sure you weren't prank called? And she convinces him otherwise. And he's like, okay, I guess I'll listen, you know. So you do try to convince the cop, like, hey, my wife's innocent, this, that, and this. And then this next loop that you get into, you find out that there was a nanny, a part of the wife's life and the her father's life. And so once that loop ends, you interrogate your wife again. You're like, who's this nanny bitch? Like, what are you talking about? And she's like, oh, my dad had an affair with the nanny.
Was so okay. So her, like, the lines that the excuse, it just made me so mad. The whole thing is, she's like, my mom, after my parents had me, my mom paid too much attention to me, and so my dad was lonely. What? The dad got jealous of the baby, so he had an affair with the nanny? Because the dad was like, you spend too much time with our baby, you're not giving me enough attention.
Right? It was such a poor excuse, honestly.
It was such a dumb...
And then you find out after the affair happens that the nanny has a son with the father, and
this is where I check out. Just kidding.
And it's just like, what?
Sorry.
You're just like done?
I just can't. That? Like, keep going, but this whole plot makes me uncomfortable, but keep going.
I get it. I totally fucking get it. That's why when I played through the game, I was like, what the... Okay, as I went on, I couldn't understand. But anyway, the nanny has a son with the girl's father. And the nanny and the son were so shunned this girl's entire life. Like, she knew about the nanny and she knew about the nanny's son, but they were like, he was a monster and he was horrible, and his dad was like, hated this child. And so you talk to the cop one more time about the nanny after you find out that she had a son and yada yada yada. You show him the onesie because he's like, the nanny's name, like the nanny's mom's name was like a flower. It was like Daisy, Daffodil, something like that. And he's like, Dahlia. The guy, like the husband, put 2 and 2 together. He's like, Dahlia, that's my mom's name. And you're like, oh. He pulls out the onesie and you're like, what? Yeah. Not to mention, okay, so when this happened in the game, in real life, when I was playing this, the cop also says Dahlia is his mom's name too. And for a second, I was like, so the cop is the son of the nanny? Yeah, it's, I shit you not, that's like word for word. The husband figures out his mom's name is Dahlia, and that was the nanny's name. And so, the cop does the same thing, and I was like, what the fuck is this?
Does the wife not know the nanny's name was Dahlia?
I don't think so, no.
Okay, because she's the one who put the mom's name on the onesie. So
no, right.
Why hasn't she put this together yet?
No, she doesn't know. You have to find out from the cop.
Oh my god.
Yeah. And so once you find out that Dahlia, the nanny, is your mother, a cutscene happens. And you're transported into a library with a TV on. It's dark. And the husband is now sitting in a chair with his wife's father in the same room, interrogating him. He's like, why do you want to marry her? Oh, he's so angry and so frustrated that he starts beating the husband. And the husband's like, fuck no, I'm not taking this. He whips out a gun out of nowhere and shoots the father. And he's like, I'm the father's murderer. It was me the whole time. I killed the father.
I remember now.
Yeah. And I was like, are you fucking kidding me? This game, dude.
Oh my gosh. Wild.
I know. And then, so you spend the next loop trying to convince the wife that you let her know, hey, I'm your brother. And I killed your father.
What? Oh, by the way, I'm your brother and I killed your father.
Yeah.
Ew.
Yeah.
Ew.
I think she even mentioned something about being pregnant. Yeah. I think she even mentions it. Yeah.
I hope they don't live in Texas.
Oh no.
Because that is
right. So
no.
You do the same loop and try to convince the cop, like, hey, I didn't I killed her father. You don't need to kill her. Blah, blah, blah. So you just do this whole roundabout of convincing again. And then this is where I got stuck. This is where I couldn't move on. I couldn't end the game for some weird reason. But you get the pocket watch in one of the loops after you've been so frustrated trying again. You look at the pocket watch and the time is going backwards again. And it's going behind the 12. If you stare at it long enough, your hand starts to fade. And then a cutscene happens, and then it transports you back to the library, but this time it's like sunset. And and the wife's father is in the library as well again. And it's very serene, very peaceful. And he basically says, at this point, the husband realizes, like, I shouldn't marry your daughter. And he's like, you're right. Because you would be marrying your sister. And the husband gets up and he goes, yep. They hug it out and they fucking cry. And that's where it ends.
I am disgusted.
I
can't even begin to fathom what headspace anyone would have to be in to be like, I have a great idea for a game. Turns out you're married to your sister.
Yep.
What?
My thought process exactly. Like, why? There are so many good plot twists and story twists you could have put in there, but being a half sister and brother is not one of them.
What? Like, were you really? Did you really think? Like,
once I was able to see the ending scene, and the fact that his hand was fading and he was in a loop trying to break the cycle, I realized that maybe the point of the game could have been like, obviously he knows it's bad. He knows this is terrible. He's trying to break the loop and trying to not, like, he's trying to turn back time so this doesn't happen. Because
so that he doesn't marry his sister.
Exactly. And again,
so whoever made this game obviously really regretted something.
There was a subconscious back there that was just dying to get out.
Wish they could just go back and never. But, you know, I have to, like, I don't even know what I was going to say now because I am just shocked by this game And the fact that it's like, oh, plot twist, you fucked and impregnated your sister, and now there's like an incest child growing. Like, this is gross. It's so awful.
I know. I had no idea what I was getting into.
Did he know that she was his sister before they got married, and that's why the dad was like yelling at him, and that's why he shot him? Because he was like, you're trying to keep me away from the woman I love, even though she's my sister.
Yep.
See, and that's why it's fucked up. What the hell?
The dad knew, so he was beating the shit out of the husband, like telling him, no, you can't marry her. He didn't get the words out. That they were brother and sister before the husband had killed him.
Oh, so he didn't know that they were when he actually got married. So he had to go back in time.
Right.
So he also found out. So that's so dumb.
I know. It's pretty rough. Now, mind you, I'm going to give this game 4 flicks. Wow, clicks, I mean. Wow. That's how that's how bad this game has like messed up my head.
I know this is
4 clicks, and one being the reason it's so low is because the story was incomprehensible at points. Why did the cop say that his mom's name was Dahlia as well?
Yeah.
Willem Dafoe voiced the father as well. So when you were in the library scene, that was his voice. So speaking as her father. So I don't like, forgive me, it's probably my ignorance, but I hated like the mind fuck that just didn't make sense. Like, but also it was a very difficult game. I'm sure I could have figured it out, over time, but the loops were so long and drawing, and like it was so irritating to sit there for like loop after loop of the same shit happening. Yeah.
Have to do it again when it's like such a long drawn out loop.
Right.
Yeah.
What would you rate it?
I would say that's fair. I would say 4 is fair, because I also feel like the only thing about it that is like kind of drawing to it is like the gameplay, which I like those types of games.
Me too.
Like solving puzzles type of stuff.
Uh-huh.
But it's like, why? Like, no, I'm just not gonna keep playing a video game that's like, I married my sister. So gross.
Right? So you would give it 4 too?
Yeah, maybe less.
Okay. Maybe a 2? Maybe.
Yeah, we'll see. Yeah, 2 or 3 or 4, because that's so gross.
Yeah, it is pretty gross. And like, again, the story is not the best at like being very upfront with it. So
yeah, I'm gonna give it a 3, solid 3 for me.
Fair.
Because I can't with the incest. There's no point.
I could do without it. Yeah.
Like, why did your wife have to be? Why did the happy end? Like, why? You think that like the game starts with like you're trying to protect your wife and your baby, but it's like the happy ending is like, oh, you go back in time and you never marry her because she's your sister. What? It's so weird. Like, it makes it not. It makes your motivation like weird the whole time.
And what's crazy is, like I said, that scene where the cop says that Dolly is his mom's name. I thought the cop was the son, and I was like, that would make sense. That would make sense.
Why
if the cop
isn't
was the son?
Because then the cop has a reason to try to avenge the murder.
Right. It would make sense. But here we are.
Yeah.
But on that note,
do you think that like that was something that they were gonna do and then they like changed it at the end?
I think
so. Like some parts of the story got like stayed in the loops.
It could have, right? Like a little a little Easter egg that didn't get pulled out.
Yeah.
I think it could have been that, but I also think they were trying to throw you off the trail too. Like, so you assumed the cop was
you didn't fuck
this,
your sister.
Yeah.
It's so gross because there's even that scene where she's like, oh, come on, let's go to bed. And you're like making out and like on top of her.
Every loop, she would come up to you. And it was the most aggravating thing because it was the only part in the loops that you could not stop unless you hid from her in a closet. But she would come up to you and be like, and you're like, stop.
And it's like, you're my sister.
You're my sister.
You're my sister.
I was not a fan.
I just don't know why someone would think of that and like put it as a video game.
It was a very good concept. I'm just bummed. Yeah.
Okay, are we ready for the flick?
I am.
Okay, so tonight's flick is Afterlife of the Party, and it came out on Netflix last weekend, or September 2nd, so it came out pretty recently.
Mm-hmm.
And how did you like this movie?
I hated it from the second it started. Who's the actress?
Victoria Justice from Nickelodeon.
She was from I thought she was from Disney. That's why.
Well, yeah, Nickelodeon. So Victorious, which was with like her and Ariana Grande. That's right. Their like beef started. So
oh no,
I feel like that's what Victoria Justice is most known for having beef with Ariana Grande.
Stop! If you have beef with Ariana, like there's a problem.
Yeah, you're wrong.
That's a problem. Yeah. What did you think about it?
I had a lot of thoughts about it.
Mm-hmm.
So first few things I want to say about this movie before like as like a preface to my opinions about it is that this movie is kind of aimed at like kids and like family friendly because it's PG.
Fair.
So it's like I feel like it has a lower bar for itself because it was like a kid movie technically. But it was like
if I knew that preface, I probably would have felt differently.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what I expected.
I mean, I don't know if they're like, oh, this is a kid movie, but it's definitely like because it's rated PG, they definitely want like obviously like families and like teenagers to be able to like watch this
comfortably. Yeah. So
that being said. Let's just get into it. So we meet our main character. Her name is like Cassie. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
And she's this party girl. It's her birthday weekend. She's a Gemini. Her birthday.
She's turning 25.
She's about to turn 25 at the end of May. Her birthday is May 31st. And she's about to turn 25. But all week is like party all day, party all night, don't stop, won't stop. And her best friend and roommate is like totally the opposite. She is like total homebody, workaholic. She and her, like as best friends, they used to do puzzles all the time. And just so kind of hang out together at home. But now the one girl likes to party a lot. So she's like, just kind of goes along with her. So for her birthday, they go out partying, but she's like not really a dancer. She's not really a partier. So she just kind of feels left out. And they end up getting into a big fight. And they go home and they're really upset with each other. They go to bed, and the next morning, Cassie is still like hungover from the party, and
Mm-hmm.
she loses her balance and dies. Which is
Oh boy.
of all the like, there are so many times in this movie where I was like, this is directed by a man, because I'm like, oh, she's so clumsy that she just slips and falls and hits her head on the toilet and dies. Like, that happens.
Yep.
Like,
Yep. Is it really
um,
directed by a man?
it was, yeah. After I had that feeling a couple times, I checked and I was all, it was.
It so was.
It so was. But
Wonderful.
she literally, like, puts her hand down on the sink and misses. And so she, like, loses her balance and does, like, a 360 turn, grabs the towels, and then falls backwards. She does, like, a whole gymnastics routine to, like, this one slip
Straight
to,
up.
like, end up falling and hitting her head to die. And I'm like, after, in all that, she's just, like, her arms and legs are just flailing, falling, getting ready. Like, no human being wouldn't have any time to stop and catch
Right.
themselves. Like, when you see the toilet, like, that just would never happen.
The toilet was like on the opposite side of the bathroom too.
Of the sink. She had to really, like, they had to really choreograph a dance to get her over there to hit her head. Like, so anyways, but they had to get her dead somehow, because that's the whole plot of the movie.
I guess.
And I guess, yeah, so she hits her head on the toilet and dies. There are so many things in this movie, too, that I'm just like, this is just not... But it's just like a campy... So anyways, let's go on.
Right. I feel you, though.
So she wakes up in limbo, and she finds out that she has to basically, like, correct her wrongs on Earth with the three major people in her life before she can get into heaven. And those three people are her dad, her best friend, and her mom. So she goes and, like, sees where her dad is at, and her dad, who's this, like, yoga guru who lives on the beach. He has this, like, amazing house with this, like, glass wall that just opens right to the sand, and he's, like, sitting on the couch, and he's just, like, lazy and depressed and has, like, junk food all over, and his, like, yoga mat's all dusty, and he's just, like, in dirty old sweatpants. And honestly, he honestly looks like Josh Peck today.
Oh my god.
Like, I couldn't
see it.
I couldn't unsee it. I was like, it's not him, but it definitely looks just like him. I'm like, wow, this is quite a roller coaster for me.
I'm gonna look it up. Oh my god, yeah, you're right. Wow.
So she goes to see her friend and sees that now... Oh. Because the reason why her dad is like this now is because it's been a year randomly. So...
Oh, that's right. She just wakes up and...
She wakes up and she's up there and she's like, oh, it's been a year because time works differently up here. Like, it moves faster. But then it stops working differently because now, after a year passes, it goes back and it's moving the same speed again.
Yeah.
For some reason. So, I don't know. The rules changed a little bit. But now it speeds up a year really fast, then goes back to going the same rate of time. Because now she has 5 days to, like, complete this list. 5 normal human days. So she goes, sees her dad, he's all dirty. She goes to see her best friend, who's now, like, consumed and buried herself in her work. And I don't know if she ever actually says, like, what she does, except she talks about digging bones and working with fossils. So I don't know if she's a paleontologist or an archaeologist because she doesn't really specify if it's dinosaurs or like ancient human civilizations or anything like that. So the only like hint is one time her boyfriend or her like guy she has a crush on mentions like, "Oh, are you busy with your dinosaurs?" But he says it in a way like he doesn't really know what she does for work, and she just says, "Ha ha ha, I like bones." And I'm like, she never says what kind of bones. Or did she? And I just lost because
I don't recall. I don't remember her saying what she worked, like what she did. I mean, she went for that interview, but...
Yeah, and when they're like, why do you love your job? She's all, I just love holding bones and digging in dirt. I'm like, great scientist.
No, I don't even remember.
But then, so her friend is like buried in her work, and then she goes and sees her mom, but she never had like a good relationship with her mom while she was alive, and she goes and sees that her mom is like with now another daughter, and she's like, oh great, I have to like make things happy with my mom even though she's happy with another daughter or whatever. But so she ends up going back to her apartment so she can start following her friend around, and her friend is also now friends with a new bakery owner in town. So that kind of comes up later. But yeah, she's friends now with a lady who works at a bakery.
And like this character is really cute, but yeah, super random.
Yeah, she's cute, but she really isn't necessary. Then she follows her friend to work, and she sees that she has like a work bully, this guy who like goes up and teases her and stuff. And honestly, at this part of the movie is when I knew something was really wrong with me, because when he's like there signing up on the sheet and she's like behind him, and then he like turns around and like says something mean to her really close to her face, I was all, ooh, hot. I was like, yes.
Oh my.
Say something mean to me.
Please.
Tell me I'll never be loved and take my clothes off.
Oh no. Oh no.
Just kidding. I'm pretty messed up. But anyways, her work bully was pretty hot.
Shit.
So she ends up so she like can't, she's a ghost and she can't like communicate with anybody, so she gets like pretty fed up, and after following her friend around all day, she's like frustrated, she doesn't know what to do, and she ends up like sitting on the edge of her friend's bed while she like before she wakes up, and she's like upset and crying, and then she ends up starting to hum one of their favorite songs from when they were both alive. It was like a pop star who was like this guy Coop, who they all like really love. So she starts humming this song, and then the music connection like brings them together, and her humming makes it so that she can now see it, like brings her consciousness awareness like visible to Lisa, and now she can see her friend, and they're like, oh my gosh, you're dead, get away from me.
Yeah, rightfully freaked out.
Yeah, but and then they go on this like unnecessary side quest to like test if she can now contact like all humans or if it's just her. And it's like, you don't need this whole 15-minute scene to explain something so small and dumb that you could literally just in one line say, oh, it must be because we're best friends and we're connected that you can see me now. Like, that's it. You don't have to go through 20 minutes of being like, let's go to strangers and try talking to this people. Can you talk to them? No. Oh, let's read from this book. Oh, I guess you can only talk to your soulmate. Like, girl, like, you can just... You could just say it in one line. Like, you literally have not cared about the rest of this movie. You opened the movie by saying, hello, you're my best friend from first grade. That was, like, the first line. So you don't care about just, like, saying a whole plot summary in one thing.
Right.
Like, you could just say, I can talk to you now, but no, they go on this whole 20-minute side quest, and I just went on a whole 20-minute side quest to complain about it.
Rightfully so, because it's this movie.
There was so much.
Fucking movie.
So they just, like, spent 20 minutes to explain a rule that was nonsense to begin with. And they're like, okay, great. So then they go back to Josh Peck's and just kidding, he looks like him. But the dad, so they go back to the dad and they're like, let's test it on the dad because you're kind of close to him.
Oh, that's right.
Not as close to your friend, but we'll see if we'll test it on someone closer. And the dad's like walking around his apartment talking out loud as if he's talking to Cassie, which like the on the one hand, like, it's sad to watch like a grieving father.
Right.
On the other hand, the way he's speaking doesn't sound like a grieving father as much as it sounds like someone writing, like, back home as they're in the Revolutionary War. Like, my love, today we had, like, I don't know, this guy, just the way he talks, I'm like, what are you saying? Like, this is so, why are you speaking so formal to yourself alone at home? Exactly. Right. It's so ingenuine.
Yeah, not a fan. Not a fan. The acting.
I can't wait for the day where I can hold you again in my arms. Like,
it rained today.
Yeah.
It got 50% on Rotten Tomatoes and a 5.9 on IMDb. I just wanted to throw that out there.
just so we all remember.
Yeah.
So she goes back, and so after her test to see her, she sees like no strangers, and her dad still can't see her. So she goes back to her friend and is like, okay, let's like, I'm really dead, but like I have to help you guys to go to heaven. Right. So she ends up, they like have a nice little moment again, and they do puzzles, and she ends up getting the neighbor to come over by like turning up the music really loud. So he comes over, and they go on she sets it up so they go on a date together. That's right. So that like so the neighbor and her best friend, so she's helping her best friend by getting her a boyfriend. Yeah. That's what, you know. This is we'll get to this at the end too, but yeah. So then she's like, okay, got that. Then she's like, gotta go help my dad. So she goes to her dirty dad's like dirty ass house with junk food everywhere, and probably hasn't been like vacuumed or dusted or anything in a year. She's like, let's see, where do I start? I know. And she opens the curtains and the window, and then she lays out his yoga mat on the porch and is all done. And suddenly the house is clean, spotless.
She moved a rock to his little Zen garden.
Yeah, she like moves a rock in the little Zen garden, and she's all perfect. That's all my dad needed, was for me to set up his yoga mat.
I'm not gonna lie. Cured. I laughed my ass off when he came by. He walked by it, didn't even notice. Like, didn't even phase it. I was laughing in my kitchen.
I know. And then he turned around and was like, I can take a hint, universe. I see my yoga mat set up. I'm like, depression over. All you needed was someone else to set up your yoga mat. In case anyone's out there is depressed.
Here's the answer. Okay.
You don't need antidepressants. You don't need medication. All you need is someone else to set up your yoga mat for you.
And
dust it off a little bit. Done.
That's right.
She's like, Dad, checked off the list. Then she's like, then at a point before she's hanging out with her friend again, and I just had to write this down, but there's a point where they're like walking down the street and her friend puts in her earbuds to talk, and she's like, I don't want to look like I am talking to myself. I'm gonna be on my earbuds or whatever, which okay, that makes sense. Except, girl, the way you put them in your ears, they were, like, sticking out. Like, am I the only one who noticed they were about to fall out? It looks like she barely placed them.
I didn't see it until it was, like, a side profile. I noticed that it looked weird.
And then it looked like a little Shrek ear, like, sticking out.
Oh,
and I'm
Lord.
like, what? You didn't put... I'm like, I wonder if she couldn't hear the lines if she, like, had them in her ears all the way.
Maybe.
So they're like, don't put them in all the way, just, like, have them rest on your ears.
Oh.
I was like, girl, what are these headphones doing? That's crazy.
You want to bet that's what the case was. Oh, God.
So the friend and the neighbor fall in love. And so the friend is helped. She got a boyfriend.
Yep.
And then her friend goes to see her mom. That way Cassie can, like, go with her. And this is then another part where I was like, this movie's directed by a man. Because the mom is explaining why she ran away from the daughter when she was a baby or whatever, and the mom's like, I was just so young and wild and carefree, and my husband, now that I look back, I can see that he was so patient and loving, and I just, at the time, I thought it was suffocating, and I can see now that he just wanted to protect me, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is... Yeah, I'm sure he was just loving and patient and supportive and, like, totally perfect in every other way. Like,
right. And then when her friend, like, juts in the conversation, and then it makes her mom, like, she's like, what would you say if Cassie was here right now?
Right.
And Cassie's like, I didn't ask you to say that. I was livid for... I
know.
Can't really put a thumb on it, but I was like, don't you dare. Like,
yeah.
Don't mess with that crap.
Like, what would you say to her right now? Yeah. Like, how about I don't give a shit what you would say to me right now? You fucking left when I was a kid and I'm dead now. Yeah. You literally never came back into my life.
You had another kid and moved on.
And what she says is like, what I would tell her is that I regret leaving and I should have been there for her to hold her when she had nightmares and help her with her homework. But of all the mistakes I made, the one thing that never changed was that I always loved her. I'm like, I don't fucking care about how you feel about me if you're treating me like shit.
Sounds like a man wrote that.
The fuck? Exactly.
Or directed it.
Because a man directed it.
A mother, like, for a mom to leave a child, it's very difficult. It's very, very difficult. I'm not saying that it can't be done. But, like, the way she talks about it, I was like, it's so, like, cliche to say those kind of things.
But the way that she's like, but I always loved you. It's like...
Get out of here.
That means nothing. That means literally nothing. Love is fake and stupid anyway.
If you really loved me, you would have showed it to me, but you didn't.
It doesn't matter if you loved me because you loved and cared about yourself more.
Yep.
And still do, because all that this is you feeling bad that now your daughter's dead.
Yep.
For a year and you never got to say you're sorry.
Yep. Exactly.
It just made me so mad. She's all, but
same.
Nothing, I never changed as I loved you. Fuck off, bitch.
Get lost.
Like, get the straight away from me.
Yeah, no.
So then she gets in a fight with her friend, and her friend's like, you don't know what it's like having to, like, live on with the guilt of fighting with you and then you dying. And then I'm like...
When she said that... It's like, how the fuck do you feel? Like, how do you think it would feel to be dead? Trying to right my wrongs. Like, get out of here.
Her line is, I wrote this down in quotes, because she goes, well, I'm dead. She's like, you don't know how I feel. And she's all, well, I'm dead.
Thank God. I was so mad.
But I do have to say, like, I do think that it is really weird that your best friend dies in your apartment. Your best friend from first grade, from the time you guys are 6 years old, dies in your apartment in the bathroom that you guys share, presumably. Mm-hmm. And you're like, yep, this is where my best friend died. Better find a new roommate.
Yep.
And still continue to live here and sit and shit on this toilet where my head hit her. My friend hit her head, like, and died. What?
Nah.
How is she still living in that apartment? Does that believable at all?
No, they
and
just
it's
had a limited
year
budget.
later. This is a year later, so she had to sign a new lease at some point.
At least
one.
Right.
Like,
at this point,
much.
I realized, I was like, they probably have a really low budget. I get it. They don't want to have to, like, form a whole new set for a whole new apartment.
A new set for her apartment for her to live in.
That, like, we'll just keep her.
They're all, just move the lamp. Oh my gosh. Well, I'm quite dead from that.
Same.
So anyways, so after the fight with her friend, she's all, well, I'm dead. She goes back to heaven, and she's like, I quit. I don't want to do this anymore. And the lady's all, fine, I guess you can go to hell. And she's all, okay, never mind. And so she goes back to see, she goes back to see her dad, and her mom and her dad are talking. And this is so frustrating and so dumb to me. Mm-hmm. The mom's sitting there, she's like, I feel like Lisa came over and it felt like Cassie was there, and after I just felt an urge to come see you, and I just have to tell you, I'm sorry that I left. And the dad's all, it wasn't what I expected, but when life is what happens when you make plans, and life is crazy because your plans aren't what life plans, haha. And I'm like, and the dad's all, it helps me be a better man. And then they hug, and then she leaves, and then the daughter runs down and is like, Mom, I forgive you. I'm like, why?
Why would you forgive her?
For what? What'd you do? Where? How? Why? When? There's no reason to.
Right.
She doesn't deserve it. You don't need to. Nope. Like, all this whole plot line was to just push this, like, social narrative of you have to forgive to move on and blah, blah, blah. Which I'm here to say, no, you don't. Never forgive. Hold on to that shit forever. People don't change.
Straight up. I mean, in that kind of situation, like, I mean, I'm not to get dark or anything, but, like, my father, like, he offed himself. And I was 9. And you expect me to forgive him? Mm-hmm. You got another thing coming. Let alone her mother didn't give a shit about her for 25 years and was still living and had another child. She ain't got to forgive shit.
No, and at the same time,
I'm passionate about this shit.
That now, a year later, that Cassie's been dead for a year, and the mom has literally zero anything to hold up to for any expectations. Like, why does she deserve forgiveness now?
Yep.
Like, why is she sorry now, a year later? Now that she doesn't have to do anything to make up for her behavior.
And mind you, they were holding her service a year later as well.
Right. Like her vigil.
It's so bad writing. Sorry.
Yeah.
It's
bad
really,
writing.
really bad. Anyway, continue.
Badly put together.
It really irked me.
No. Yeah. Sorry, Mom. You're not forgiven. Cassie might forgive you, but Ammiel and Melissa at Click and Flick do not.
Do not.
We will never forgive you, Mom.
Oh, the anger.
I'm so mad at that. She's all, I'm sorry. It's okay. I forgive you.
Oh.
And then she's all, I forgive you, Mom, and her list says Sophia, aka Mom, like written on the list, as if she doesn't know that it's her mom. It's like, oh, just so you know, when we say Sophia, we mean your mom. Like, oh my god. So crazy.
Well, and Lisa's name didn't get scratched off. Like, and her and Lisa were on good terms at that point.
Yeah, so why...
I don't know.
I don't even remember what it took, because then I never saw a point where their names, like, actually vanished off the list. So now I can't remember that.
Yeah.
Does it happen at the end of the vigil or something?
It does. Yeah, it happens at the end of the vigil. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so... Anyways, so she's like, I forgive you, Mom, and then she goes back to heaven, and she's like, I want to add someone to my list of people to help. Biggest eye roll. Biggest eye roll in the fucking world, because this is, I am like, okay. She wants to add the bakery owner because she wants to help her. And her great idea to help the bakery owner is to set her up with my dad. You know what a man needs in his life to be fulfilled? Someone else to set up his yoga mat. You know what a woman needs? That man. That man who had someone else set up his yoga mat. If bringing people together helps them, then wouldn't setting up this bakery owner with the dad help the dad and get his name onto the list? Why does she have to add someone to the list to help?
Oh, I need that. I need that on a t-shirt. Get you a girl who can dust off your yoga mat. That's all you need in life.
That's all you need. But anyways, so basically all the loose ends get tied up, and they have this goodbye vigil where the dad and the bakery owner are together, and the girlfriend, or the girl, the neighbor and has her boyfriend now, or the roommate and the neighbor boyfriend are together.
Right.
And they all say goodbye to her. And I guess I can kind of see them waiting a year, because, like, she died so close to her birthday, and I guess, like, a year later they would want to do something special, like, on that date to, like, remember her again. So maybe they did have a funeral, like, before, but this was just, like, a special, like, remembering service, because there was only, like, it was really only, like, the people who were super duper close to her that were there. There was, like, 7 people there total. But, so the time's almost up, and she's like, oh, there's, like, this last piece to the puzzle. I'm gonna finish that really quick before I go back to heaven. And her guardian angel's like, hurry up, you're running out of time. And so she goes back and finishes the puzzle, but it's too late, and she runs out of time. So then, now that she's late, she has to go through, like, this judgment to see if she's gonna get to go to heaven or not. And then she comes out of the room, and she's like, yes, you get to go to heaven. So, a lot of tension for, like, a little short second of, now we're good, no, we're just gonna go to heaven. And then she goes to heaven, and in heaven she's with this pop star guy who she loves. So
that's right, she meets him in the elevator. Oh
yeah, which is sad because, like, he dies.
Yeah. I didn't put that 2 and 2 together.
This character just dies, and they're like, oh yeah, I died helping people. Oh great, now we're both in heaven because you're dead. Perfect. Like, crazy.
Crazy, weird.
Crazy.
Are here? Wow.
Okay, so one thing, as predictable as this movie is, one thing that I thought was going to happen that I was wrong about was that I thought at the end, and from the very beginning, I thought this would happen. I thought, like, okay, so she's not going to stay dead at the end. What I thought was that she would, like, go through this whole thing and then
come back to life.
They'd be like, oh, well, something happened where, like, you didn't follow the rules of the test, so we're just resetting it, and you're gonna go back to, and basically end up coming back to life and be like she was in a coma when she hit her head or something.
I thought the same thing.
I really thought that's what they were gonna do, and then when they had the whole scene where it was, like, judgment, and she was, like, there waiting, like, I thought she was gonna come out and, like, say that.
Mm-hmm.
But she didn't. She was like, okay, go to heaven, and then just went to heaven. I'm like, oh, okay. I guess they're just gonna go to heaven.
I thought the same shit. That's funny.
But yeah, there's just a lot where I'm like, this movie just didn't like.
Mm-mm.
The fact that it's
go ahead.
Okay, so I would give it a 4. Generously giving it a 4 because I feel like it would have been lower, but I've watched other YouTube reviews where people like really enjoyed it, and so I had like a different perspective seeing it from someone who liked it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, so like there are parts where it's just like easy going, it's like cheesy and corny and just like a typical like teen bop movie. Mm-hmm. And for all that, it does fine. But what I hate so much about it is that from like these are the reasons why from the time you're a kid you're like, oh, the most important thing is being in a relationship. Right. Because movies like this come out that are geared toward kids and they're like, oh, I have to help this person be happy. Gotta put them in, find them a couple. Oh, yeah. I want to help this bakery lady. Better set her up with my dad. Oh, like, you're not going to be fulfilled until you're in a partnership with somebody. Yeah. And so it makes you feel like if you're 30 and alone, you're a failure.
Yeah. I mean, just to resort back to Luca, like Luca was such a good example of that, of the opposite of that. Mm. You know, like you don't need a relationship to enjoy life.
Yeah, because they don't talk about
don't talk about any of it.
Any of that in that movie at all.
Nothing.
But yeah, that was why this part of me is like knowing that this is like aimed at like teenagers. Younger. And there's a whole scene where she like is in bed and she breaks down because she's like, I'll never fall in love and have a first kiss again and blah blah blah. And it's like the saddest thing to happen. I'm like, you're dead. You're literally dead though. And like you'll never see your family. Like I mean that's all I mean I know that she was already sad about that, but it's like the fact that the whole
that's what she's
like her like, emotional emphasis and stuff in the movie was on that, not on her like not getting to see her dad, and not really as explored so much like one scene explored about it of her mom at the end, but it's like that relationship with her mom is way more complicated than what they wrapped up at the end to be like, I forgive you, and it's just so insulting.
They just wadded it up and threw it in a trash can. Yeah. I would easily give this movie a 1 out of 10 flicks. The acting, I saw better acting in Disney Channel original movies, in Brink, in all those movies. I saw way better acting, and like the plot, the story would have been a really good story, a really good potential. And
I mean, it's a typical plot that we've like it's been done before, you know what I mean? Yes, and all you really need to do is like put some good jokes in it and like follow the plot line and make it funny.
Yeah. Make it
funny. Make it make sense.
And also do like original stuff with it that's not outlandish. Like oh, I'm putting AirPods in because I just like it just none of it appealed to me. And from the very first scene in the movie, I was like, nope. And for it to be a Netflix original, I was really, really disappointed. I'm sure there are multiple other Netflix originals that are just as par as this one is, but like I was really disappointed. And did I stop watching it because it was that bad? No. I followed through with it, so I can't say it was entirely bad, but for my taste and my preferences, it's a 1 out of 10.
I think like that's totally fair. Yeah. I think that for what it is, it's entertaining enough, like, in that genre of, like, 13 going on 30 and, like, a Cinderella story. And, like, the kind of movies that are kind of geared toward teenage girls. However, the messages that they're gearing toward these teenage girls, I find very, like... like, just dumb. Like, what's the point?
Yeah, it's 2021.
Like, exactly.
We've progressed so much in certain ways in society. Well, like, we've progressed in positive ways in society, and for it to be such a cliche story to push that agenda is so infuriating. For it to so be overdone.
Like, you have to find a boyfriend to be happy. Yeah. Like, it's not enough that you are successful at work and that you get promoted and all this. Like, no, you also have to have a boyfriend.
Right. I don't want to see a part 2, so...
but I'm not interested in a part 2. Yeah, it just is frustrating to me when I wish it was more the common storyline to be more like Luca, where it's teaching you to be an individual instead of like
codependent.
You know, instead of like, oh, go find your boyfriend or girlfriend or whatever to be complete. Like, help people on your list by helping them get a boyfriend.
Horrible.
Yeah. So, anyways, this movie, I'm gonna give it a 3 out of 10.
All right, 1 out of 10 on my end. Interesting. What an interesting episode to have two very floppy kind of game and movie opinions, which
very different, but very, like, they're both very different genres.
Yeah.
And yet, I was equally disappointed.
I was equally mad about both. Yeah. It was a good episode though. I enjoyed releasing the tension from both the game and the movie.
Having to talk about that, because I was like, oh my gosh, is this for real after watching this movie? But anyway, next week.
Yes.
Next week we will be here wherever you're listening to us right now. We'll still be here. But you will also be able to find us on YouTube, and you'll be able to see us.
It'll be exciting.
Clicks and flicks.
You get to see our faces. And if you have any recommendations and or comments, questions, concerns, you can always email us at clickandflickpodcast@gmail.com.
That's clickandflickpodcast@gmail.com.
Bada bing. And
thanks for listening.
Yeah, we'll catch you guys on the flip side.
And the click and flick side.
And the click and flick side.